bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And a good morning, Eagles fans. It is a vacation summer Tuesday here on Birds 365 as we work our way to the opening of training camp. McMullen, McDonald going to hang with you for the next 2 hours talking football, mostly Eagles football, a couple of national football topics I want to run by my partner here today. But we'll be talking ball, as Coach Sirianni likes to call it, all day long. Not b-ball. We ended the NBA season last night. Congratulations to the Nuggets. Not baseball. Yeah, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning on WIP after the Phillies lost a late one in the desert. No, the ball we're talking today is football. And I want to go to our buddy Reuben Frank to start the show today, John. Had his observation column. Usually comes out Sunday night or early Monday. This week was not till Monday. It was posted yesterday. And one of the topics Reuben touched on is Devontae Smith, softball maven that he is, his status among wide receivers in the National Football League, and has Devontae Smith already cracked the top 10 in wide receivers? Last year at this time, after the Eagles had acquired A.J. Brown, we kicked back and forth, where does A.J. rank in the National Football League? And when I had him number 11, a lot of Eagle fans lost their mind.
Oh, yeah.
They thought I was a stone cold hater. And why do you do that? You have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't have him
bad, by the way. That's not bad.
Right. I didn't have him 43rd. I had him 11th. I said just outside the top 10. Here are the 10 guys I would take above AJ. And this is a very fluid list. It changes every single year. You're not locked into that position for 5 years. You have a good year, you can move up. You have a less than stellar year, injured-filled year, you drop down a little bit. So last year when we talked about an Eagle wide receiver in the top 10, I got crushed for it. And then, oh, by the way, readily admit and acknowledge A.J. Brown went out and stamped himself as a top 10 wide receiver. So let me tell you right now, if I were to put together my list for top 10 wide receivers in the National Football League, A.J. Brown would be on it. A.J. Brown would be top 5 or 6 is where I would rank the Eagles' top wide receiver right now. And Reuben asked the question, is Devontae Smith below A.J. Brown, but still in the top 10 wide receivers in the National Football League? So I took the time yesterday to do it, John, and crunch my numbers. And the answer is, yeah, he is. He's already a top 10 wide receiver. I had him coming in at number 9, so that makes him a top 10. Last year I had a guy just outside. This year I got a guy just inside. The Eagles have two top 10 wide receivers right now. This is sorry for all you old head Eagle fans who want to remember yesterday. This is easily the best wide receiver duo the Eagles have ever had in the history of their franchise.
Yeah. I said that last year. I said, hey, I didn't say best. I said most talented duo
they're both
that they've ever. Well, this was prior before they ever played a game together. They hadn't done it. Now they have done it. But it was clearly the most gifted duo very early in the process. Top 10, I'm probably going to get in trouble. I don't know if he's top 10. There's a lot of good receivers in the NFL. I'm not going to argue if you got him at 9 or 10. He might be 11 or 12. He's in that range. He's so gifted. He's such a good route runner. And that's what I look for with great receivers, because I mean, when you have you got to be a tremendous athlete to be an NFL receiver. You just have to be, and to be in the conversation to be top 10, that's sort of baked into it. The Tyreek Hills of the world, we just mentioned AJ Brown from a different perspective: the size, the physicality, the strength. Whether you want to go Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, these are the best receivers in football. They're all just unreal athletes, and Devontae is as well. And, the route runners, Stephon Diggs would be the guy. I mean, so many, when you talk to young receivers, they all say Diggs, Diggs, Diggs. Such a great route runner. Devontae's like reaching that level. He creates such separation. He's tremendous. I can't believe I'm saying this. He's tremendously physical for 160. It's weird. I mentioned that with Mike Quick when we had him on the show. It's weird. He's long. He's not big, but he's long. He's got these giant hands. I think he's going to be a top 10 receiver in the league. I don't know if I can put him there yet. I just ran down. I haven't done it like you. I just ran down a bunch of guys that I would have ahead of him, 6 or 7 right off the top of my head, which is not a lot. So Eagles fans shouldn't get upset by that. He's whether he's top 10, 11, 12, he's really, really gifted. And yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches at the top of that wide receiver depth chart. And then it kind of falls off from there, obviously.
Right to the coach's new favorite, Quez Watkins. But we'll get to Quez a little later in the show. Yeah, it's funny, John, because when I put AJ just outside the top 11, everyone who I argued that with as the season went on made sure that they jumped on my timeline on Twitter and said, "Hey, Jody, how's that 11th wide receiver in the league doing? You sure you want to keep at number 11?" And, of course, I respond and say, hey, I said at the time it was just temporary and you can move up and down a list like this pretty damn easy. It's funny. I never get any tweets nor calls on WIP. If the guys want to hop on and just leave a comment on our stream here, which, oh, by the way, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I never get anybody going, yeah, you were right to not be worried about Devontae Smith's spindly legs, because that was all the talk of camp 2 years ago. How can a guy like this play in the National Football? A stiff wind comes by and this guy's going to be blown up. Taking the step up to the National Football, I don't know that he's going to last. Well, he did it to the tune of a Heisman Trophy in college football in the SEC. He wasn't playing Division III college football. He's playing in the SEC. He's playing in national championship games with Alabama. So everyone has to make that jump up, and everyone knows that the NFL is more physical than college football, but the closest facsimile is the SEC, and he didn't have any problems there. I said, some guys are just that gifted. They're just that talented that they know how to avoid the big hit and the big contact. And 2 straight years, A.J. Brown has played in 17 games. There's been no injury issues. There's been no he can't take a big shot type issues. He's just that good, and he stays away from guys that he stays on the field. And that is one of the reasons that I put him in my top 10 is guy plays every single snap. And as you just said, Johnny Mac, it just sounds wrong when you say it, but a 176-pound, 165-pound guy is as tough as nails.
Yeah, he really is. He is. Now, I'm not going to kill people for questioning his size. I also, you remember, I asked Mike for a comp. Have you ever seen anybody who's that size, be that physical, be that and he had to go way back to Anthony Carter, which is, you know, in the 80s.
Right,
I mean,
decades ago.
it's not like it happens every year. There are outliers, and it's starting to change. And when you see somebody like Devontae, but that's what I'm saying. Most 166-pound guys aren't physical in the NFL, and he is. And it's kind of amazing to watch. You know, I remember his first practice, and I had, you know, been covering the Eagles for a while now, and they were not good at receiver for the most part. Their best receivers were, you know, good NFL players, but compared to the rest of the league, I mean, they had some issues at wide receiver. And we all know those issues. And having gone through that and seeing Devontae Smith pretty much from day one, you said, okay, this guy's different. This guy's different than what they had in the past. And then they get A.J. Brown on top of it. And all of a sudden, the position is cured. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was fair. I'm not going to play revisionist history and criticize those people. I think it was fair to question his size, and pretty much every scouting report did for the obvious reason. Jody, you're laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing because he was the 11th pick in the draft. So how many teams really said, "Oh, he can't play in the NFL"?
Well, no, then you give people credit. Nobody did. That's the point. You give people credit, and they're saying, "All right, yeah, this guy's got these issues."
Do you think if the Eagles hadn't taken Devontae at 10, he would have fallen through the first round?
I didn't say that. I said
No, I didn't say you said that, John. I asked you a question.
No, of course not.
Okay.
He was. I'm saying it was legit. If you look at every one of his scouting reports, every single one of them brought up the size issue because it's real. But they also said he's a great player, and that's why he was drafted number 10. But what I'm trying to say, Jody, is it's rare. It doesn't happen all the time. So when you see somebody 166 pounds and you go, well, you know, I mean, you are kind of going against the grain. We know how important traits and measurables are to NFL teams and all the analytics, and they do all these studies, and you're not supposed to be what he is, but he is. Right. And that's all credit to Devontae Smith.
Credit to Devontae Smith, and also to the Philadelphia Eagles, because flying in the face of those who said just too small, isn't going to be able to survive 165 pounds, legs like twigs. Oh, he can flat out play. And all you had to do was turn on the tape and go back and watch what he did at Alabama against, yes, the most reasonable facsimile to the NFL you have. And he never got hurt there. He never took the big shot there. He never paid the price for being that small there. So I guess it comes back to my stance of people over-evaluate measurables. If a guy can flat out play, and he proved he can flat out play, and he did it in college for 3 years, and he was stone cold dominant, put the measurables off to the side and go, yeah, but look at what he actually does when he plays football. What would I rather judge, a measuring stick or an actual piece of film on a guy who's played? And for not just one game, an entire 3-year career, because none of them can come into the league until they've been in college football for 3 years. So unlike the NBA where they draft guys after 1 year in college or put them in the G League and then bring them at the end, this is completely different. College football gives you the best chance to evaluate a player at a high level and be able to put the measurables aside, that there are some guys that are the exception to the rule. Generally speaking, yes, you want to incorporate their physicality, what they can do. But on some special occasions, you look at a player and go, yeah, I don't care what his measurables are. I can see the guy is just a flat-out stud as a player. And the Eagles not only did that, traded back and then traded back up because they wanted the player that badly. And damn if they've been right about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we talk about that year. It's always the Eagles had their eyes on 4 really buy players, but Kyle Pitts wasn't in the conversation. They were never going to get up to Kyle Pitts. They wanted the 2 cornerbacks, and they went. J.C. Horn's the player they probably would have taken. Again, I don't like to play this revisionist history game because they got it right. They deserve credit because they went up. He was the last guy. He was the last guy of the group. And they were very concerned they wouldn't get him, and they wouldn't have gotten him if they didn't trade up to get him. So I give them credit for that part. But, and by the way, all the other players they liked are great. Patrick Surtain, J.C. Horn, Jalen Waddle, they're all great players.
Right.
So,
good draft.
But when you're up at that point of the draft, you got better players, obviously. And they deserve credit, but it's not like, and by the way, if Jalen Waddle was here, he'd be great too. He's a great player. And Devontae would be somewhere else, would probably be a great player. Surtain's probably the best of that bunch, to be honest. He is a phenomenal player. J.C. Horn's a very good player. Had the one injury, but so it was a good draft. They got a very good player. But I'm just not gonna. My only point I'm trying to make here is if you're going, all right, DeVonta Smith isn't good because he won the Heisman Trophy. DeVonta Smith isn't good because he was good at Alabama. DeVonta Smith is good because he's good. That the NFL is littered with failed prospects from the SEC who produced at the highest level of college football. Just littered. Tim Tebow being the most notable, who might be the greatest college football player of all time. Wasn't a good NFL player. I remember the Michael Sam discussion. Michael Sam was the co-SEC Defensive Player of the Year, was a phenomenal pass rusher at the college level. And I bring him up because the traits were the issue. He was 6'2". He didn't show explosion, but he was a great, great college player. Wasn't a good pro player. It happens all the time. Devontae's good because he's just special. The route running, the length, the hands, the ability to get off press coverage despite his size. Not because he won the Heisman Trophy. Not because, obviously, that contributed that. But what I'm saying is there are plenty of great players from Alabama, Georgia, everywhere that don't end up as great in the NFL.
Understood. I guess my point is neither is 100%. The guys with the unbelievable traits don't always turn into superstar players. They don't. There is many of those failures as there are the SEC guys who won Heisman's like Tim Tebow and didn't cut it in the NFL. It's also not 100%. If you have that kind of success in college, that you're going to be it's the combination of the two. And yes, the teams that get it right are the ones that can look at both the tape and the accomplishment and go, yeah, this guy's got both. He's checking both boxes. I don't care that he's 165 pounds. He did it. I can project he's going to do it in the National Football League. And Devontae Smith has done just that. The Eagles got that one right. Yeah, I got that one right. And too many Eagle fans checked in with me and said, yeah, I'm worried about this guy. You didn't need to be. And it's been proven out after 2 years. That's just the case. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. Got two good guests coming your way today. A little later from the best show ever on both the Fanatic and NBC Sports Philly. Our buddy Hunter Brody's going to jump in. But next, we've got the big guys. Special Ed Kratz joins us here on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
McMullen and McDonald, your Mac guys here on Birds 365. We got our buddy Special Ed Kratz to jump in with us today for a solid 15-20 minutes. Ed Kratz, were you listening when Johnny and I were wrapping up the first segment?
The tail end of it, I heard a little bit about Devontae Smith and how the Eagles got that one right, I assume, in the draft.
Are both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown already top 10 wide receivers in the league?
Yeah, I would say yes, definitely. Listen, they both had what? A.J. had almost 1,500 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns. Devontae had almost 1,200 yards and what do you have, 7 touchdowns? I mean, how can you argue with those numbers? They're wide receiver number one, and they just happen to be on the same team.
I'm going to give Ed a chance because I think I know your answer, Ed. But if I forced you to pick between A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who's better?
Well, they're going to have to make that decision, I think, some point here down the road. I mean, Devontae's due for a contract extension soon here. I think after 2024 he is signed through, and then AJ's numbers go through the roof, salary cap hit wise. So they may have to make that decision. If I had to pick one, I would probably take AJ Brown.
Wow! See, I thought you were going to.
I would say
you
Smitty.
And I had that discussion. Yeah. You said you thought at end of last season, I believe you said you thought Devontae was better than AJ.
Yeah.
Pump the brakes, Ed Kratz.
I just think AJ is a more physical receiver. I think, he's a home run hitter from, you can run a quick slant with him and he can, burst up the seam and take it the distance. I love to watch Devontae Smith play. I just think he's so acrobatic, the way he can contort his body to make some catches, and so good on the sideline at getting both feet down. And, he's fun to watch, but I would take probably A.J. Brown over Devontae Smith.
The reason that you might think about taking Devontae Smith, for me off the top of my head, would be you had 2 less years of wear and tear. AJ was in the league for 2 years before Devontae. So when push comes to shove and you got to make the call and you can only pay one umpteen millions of dollars, you might lean toward the younger of the two guys. Now, AJ's young for his age class. So I think there's only like a year and change in age, but 2 years of NFL difference on the field. That might be enough to tip the scales toward Devontae. Here's the good news. They don't have to make that decision for several years because they can exercise that 5th-year option on Devontae, so they don't.
And by the way, I wasn't even going down that route. It's an interesting discussion, but I just wanted, like right now, who's the better receiver? Not about choosing one. It's just on this team, and they get to play off each other. They get to complement each other. Who's the better receiver? I still default to AJ. I thought you were going to say Devontae. That's why I threw it at you.
Yeah, AJ, receivers just aren't built like him. That there aren't many that are. I mean, DK Metcalf has that linebacker playing receiver body. So I just think AJ is just such a rare breed.
He looks bigger, by the way, if that's possible.
No kidding, he really does. But listen, I mean, AJ's had some injuries too in the previous years. Jody's right; he's got a little bit more wear and tear in terms of NFL life. But Smith has been able to stay healthy. He's played every single game. I mean, so there's something to be said for that too. But I would still go AJ.
Well, that's another thing. He was banged up last year with the toe, and he played through it, and he deserves credit for that.
No doubt.
Because he is a tough guy. And he did play through some injuries, and that's another feather in his cap. Yeah, he's been tremendous. I mean, you remember, Ed, how bad it was at receiver before Devontae got here, and then AJ. It was bad. Carson had that one season where he threw for all those yards, and but they didn't have a receiver over, what was it, 600? It was unbelievable. In this era of the NFL, they could not find receivers. And obviously Jalen Reagor would be the biggest example of the mistake. And then they finally got one in Devontae and doubled down and got AJ. And now all of a sudden they have this embarrassment of riches, and we're complaining about the third receiver. They never had a one worth.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Fulgham. I remember how excited we were about Travis Fulgham. I mean, we were sitting there, John, in the Pittsburgh Steelers press box watching him have
COVID days. It was us and Travis Fulgham in the stadium. Nobody was near Travis.
That's right. Yeah, but everybody was excited about him, and there was a time. I mean, he was just putting up yards so quickly and in such a short period of time. We thought maybe he'll go over 1,000 yards receiving and become the first receiver to do that since Jeremy Maclin in 2014. And now here we are, 9 years after that happened, talking about two receivers that both went over 1,000 yards. And I'll tell you what, Dallas Goedert might have had over 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, he would have.
Had he not missed 5 games.
Yeah.
Let's hope all the Eagle wide receivers stay healthy, because if they don't, then we won't say, why are we debating about the third wide receiver when we got this embarrassment of riches at number 1 and number 2? Because you're one significant injury away from having to elevate your number 3 to number 2, and your offense is set to be able to throw to these two talented guys. So, yeah, I think it's a meritorious conversation to have. Apparently, the coach loves him some Quez Watkins, that he stood out in shorts the couple of days that you were there and a couple of minutes before they let you guys in. Apparently, Quez looked phenomenal, and all you guys out there fretting over the fact that we might not have the best third wide receiver in the league. Coach Sirianni says, don't even start. Quez will take the challenge of the naysayers, like Jody McDonald, and throw it back in your face. He's going to have that kind of season. Nick Sirianni oversell Quez Watkins to you this summertime, Ed Kratz?
It sure seemed that way, and it sure seemed like it was an on-purpose overselling too. He wants to let people know that they believe in Quez, and maybe letting Quez know that we believe in you. But it was funny, and you guys may have talked about this. Was an hour after Nick Sirianni praises Quez Watkins, we're let inside the building. It was an indoor practice, their final OTA, because of the air quality last week, and Quez drops a pass, right in front of us.
Yeah.
On a double move, I think it was.
Great throw, too.
Great throw from Hurts. It hits him right in the hands, and he just dropped it. So, that left you scratching your head a little bit like, really? This is the guy that had the best spring of anybody else? I mean, I know it's a short window, right? Maybe he caught everything else that was thrown his way in the times that we weren't there.
You never know. We only got to see 100 minutes in the spring, Ed, so you never know. But, I wrote about Quez and I wrote about Trey Sermon as well. And I've often brought up the Mac McCains of the world, the Tay Gowans, the Kerry Vincents. Nick's always going to talk up his guys. We know Nick at this point. He's never going to criticize anybody. He's always going to talk up his guys. So where do you find that demarcation line where he's being honest and he's just, but I bring up Trey Sermon he keeps bringing him up unprompted. Is there something to that? Like, why is he prompting up Trey Sermon? He's doing it. That's the second time he's done it completely unprompted.
Yeah,
do you make something of that?
I think he did it last year too when he was asked about Trey. He wasn't asked about Trey Sermon, and he brought him up and he said, we have another third-round pick on our team that we didn't even have, that we didn't draft it, and that's the third-round pick from the 49ers. And he said the same thing about Ian Book, I think, who was a fourth-round, or maybe it was Janarius Robinson. He was praising Robinson and Sermon for being former draft picks. And he said, we have an extra third and an extra fourth on our team this year that we didn't even draft, but other teams did. So, he likes Trey Sermon. There's no doubt. And we saw him in a very small window last year. I think it was against the Vikings, maybe.
I think it was the
Jaguars.
Yeah. 2 carries, 19 yards, something like that. I mean, he showed some good burst. And you talk about A.J. Brown being a big guy. Trey Sermon's got some pretty good size to him as well. Listen, the way Rashad Penny struggles to stay healthy, Trey Sermon could have a role in this team. I mean, Boston Scott, I know everybody loves him against the Giants, but he might be one of those veterans that's really battling for a spot here. I know he's the leader in the room, and you wrote about Boston Scott, but he's one of those veteran guys, I think, who could be fighting for a roster spot, depending on how Trey Sermon does this summer. And Nick, I think, does really like Trey Sermon. I don't think that's him just piling on like maybe he does with Quez Watkins. I think he really does want to see what Trey Sermon can do this year.
All right, so since we're talking about the Eagles and their passing game, I'll get your take on this if we talked about this with you before, and I apologize. I know John and I have talked about it plenty. Eagles wide receivers, Eagles running back receptions that they've added DeAndre Swift, who's been very good catching ball out of backfield for Detroit the last couple of years. People projecting Kenny Gainwell to be more of a factor, and that's a strength of his. But the Eagles just didn't throw it to the backs coming out of the backfield last year. That's not a key play for them. And when it comes to everybody's covered, quarterback's got to find an outlet type play. Jalen Hurts turns it upfield and makes plays with his legs. He doesn't dump it off to the running back just to get the ball out of his hands and not get sacked. Do you think we see a significant addition to the Eagles this year, the passing game to the running backs this season? Will Brian Johnson have anything to do with that if that's the case?
I do. I really do. I think, DeAndre Smith can catch 40 passes in this offense. And I think, Jalen Hurts will have the confidence in throwing him the ball rather than trying to make plays with his legs. I know when he signed his contract, Hurts, that Sirianni said that, hey, we didn't pay him more money to do less. But I could see them saying to him, hey, use your running backs. Don't take off all the time with your legs. Let your running backs catch the ball. We brought you a running back who one of his fortes and strengths is catching the football out of the backfield, and that's DeAndre Swift. So throw the ball to him. Don't put yourself in any harm's way. I mean, listen, Jalen Hurts to me has to play all 17 games this year. He hasn't been able to do that since he was a starter, and I would like to see him do that. And you can debate the manner in which he got hurt the last 2 years, but the bottom line is when you're taking off and you're carrying the ball, you're opening yourself up to the possibility that you may get hurt. I mean, we saw him take that shot in Chicago when he ran the ball and get thrown down on his shoulder. The Eagles kind of dodged a bullet there and in the fact that he was able to return as quickly as he did. You don't want that. And now you have a running back in DeAndre Swift who can catch the ball out of the backfield, who has a history of doing that. So, yeah, Jalen, throw the ball to DeAndre Swift in the flat more than you've done in recent year. I don't think he ever had the confidence to do that with Miles Sanders. I'm not sure Kenny Gainwell inspired that same kind of confidence, and Boston Scott just didn't log that high number of snaps to develop any sort of chemistry. But I think DeAndre Swift is going to be running back number 1 on this team, and he's going to get his share of receptions and targets, because I think Hurts needs to do that in order to show that he can play 17 games in a season.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about our little time at OTAs, Ed, was the bubble screens, which drive me insane. But they were throwing them to DeAndre and Kenny Gainwell more than, say, Quez Watkins. I think that could be because those guys can catch the football, unlike Miles, who couldn't do it consistently. And when you talk about those bubble screens, you need to make that first guy miss or break that first tackle. And running backs can do that. So better than receivers, obviously. So when you have a running back who can catch the football, I think what I'm trying to say is I think there might be more designed plays to the running backs when you talk about those smoke screens, bubble screens, hitches, whatever you want to call them. But when it's breaking down, I think Jalen's Jalen, man. Just tuck it and go. And by the way, I applaud him. I think that's the way to go, because he's going to get more than dumping it off to the running back. But I think they might up I'd rather have DeAndre Swift running that smoke screen than Quez Watkins. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. But I would like to see, I could see them doing more of the design stuff. But again, it's an offense that goes through AJ, Devontae, and Dallas. And, you maybe incorporate Swift in there on those bubble screens and Kenny Gainwell. But I'd like to see more off-scripted stuff where if the pressure breaks down, because we know that Smith and Brown can get open if given, a good amount of time to get them the football. But if the protection breaks down, or you're getting blitzed and you're under pressure, I would like to see a running back just leak into the flat and just toss it to him and let's see what he can do. I mean, that's what you're paying these other pieces for. And I'd like to see more of that off scripted stuff to guys like Swift and maybe Kenny Gainwell, if he can play his role play his way into having the coach's confidence. But Swift for sure can catch the football, and I wonder if Penny can too. I think when you look at Penny, boy, he's a load. He's just a big, well put together guy. But I'm not sure he has a history of catching a ball like Swift does. But I just like to see some off scripted stuff from Hurts to Swift when a play breaks down quickly.
Eddie, this is something that John and I have been kicking around. Need your take on it. When the Eagles actually begin to practice. This summer was not practice, it was activities, and it was shortened activities, and it was less than 11-11 on the field activities. And that's the way everybody does it in the NFL. Eagles just do it for less amount of time. But at some point, they're going to have actual practices, and they're going to have the joint practices with the two teams coming in here to Philadelphia this year, Cleveland and Indianapolis. When that happens, and they tell Jason Kelce, listen, you've got veteran downtime. We're not going to expect you to be out there. You're going to get to stand on the sidelines. And they've been doing that certainly since the Doug Peterson era into the Nick Sirianni era. They give their veteran guys a little bit more downtime than everybody else. When Kelce's not out there, who's going to be playing center?
That's a good question. Kelce wasn't at the last OTA we saw, and who was getting his reps? I saw Julian Good getting some reps there.
Julian Good Jones. Now Cam was with the first team at center. That's the interesting point. So
but off to the side, it was when they were doing just kind of their technique work or their whatever before they got together for 7-on-7. It was Cam was at the right guard, and Julian Good-Jones was at center. So, listen, if Cam wins that right guard job, which he might, I know Tyler Steen played right guard during those 7-on-7s, but if Cam wins that right guard job, you're going to have to find a center. I don't think you want to switch centers or switch two positions should something happen to Jason Kelce during the game. It is interesting, but obviously the Eagles haven't had to worry about it. The guy's made 140 plus starts in a row, but he has been nicked up a couple times in game. So who do you bring in? Is it going to be Cameron Tom or Julian?
Don't forget Brett Toth either. Brett Toth
possibly. I haven't seen him get any work at center, but it could be somebody like Julian Good-Jones. Suo Peta, we know it won't be him, right? He's just a guard, but maybe you flip Juergens to center and bring in Suo at right guard. And
in theory, it would be Juergens to center, Tyler Steen at right guard.
That's right. That's right. That's true.
But here's now Kelce's going to play. He just does. If his arms hanging off, his legs hanging off, he's going to play. My interesting point of seeing Cam move over when Jason wasn't there, and again, this is all individual work. When they're doing those combo blocks with Stoutland before practice, because they're not doing team drills.
Right.
It was Cam Juergens at center, was Tyler Steen at right guard. Now, Jason, and what I think Jody was getting at, Jason's going to get a bunch of maintenance days at camp. In theory, you'd want to get Cam Juergens as much work at right guard as possible to get him ready to play right guard. And you got plenty of placeholders, as you mentioned. You even brought up Julian Good-Jones, but you have Cameron Tom, you have Brett Toth, you have Julian. They can all play center. You don't really need an effective center for practice, let's be honest. So if they keep moving Cam back in the center and let Tyler Steen have the first team reps at right guard during those maintenance days, what does that tell you? Does that tell you they have confidence in Cam Juergens, or does it tell you that they want to look at Tyler Steen?
Boy, I guess you could also throw in there, do they have confidence in anybody else to play center after Kelce and Juergens? You could say that, and maybe that's more the case. But I think Tyler Steen, they want to develop Tyler Steen. They're pretty high on Tyler Steen, and I guess it could be a couple different things if you're looking at it that way. I don't like it though. I don't like messing with the center position. I think you probably stay with Cam Juergens at right guard. If you're getting ready for a team in season and Kelce's not there, I think you keep Cam right at right guard.
Wow.
I really do. And you bring in whoever your backup is going to be, whichever player you're confident in.
Well, typically Stout says that. He doesn't like to move multiple positions.
Right.
But boy, I hadn't even thought of that. That's interesting that you bring that up. Because I just kind of thought, well, Cam will go play center, but
that's a good question by Jody. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, and that's something that we should really look at is, you're right, when Kelce gets these maintenance days, and even during training camp, they give maintenance days.
Who's going
to be out there for team drills at center? That's something I'll mark down as something to watch going into camp. Good work there.
It's fun. It's funny because you're right. Stoutland is on the record as saying he'd prefer not to make a move that makes him make multiple moves. That you got to change two positions. We've all heard him say that. Nick goes a different direction. Nick likes to brag on cross-training. Oh, we cross-trained him here. We cross-trained him here. Well, if you're going to just put a guy at a position and then leave him there, and if he gets hurt, you're going to replace him. You're not going to move one guy to fill another slot, whatever. Well, then why do you need all the cross-training? Kind of they're at odds with each other. Stoutland's stance on, no, we're not going to be moving the whole offensive line around just to replace one guy, but Nick's bragging on, oh, we cross-train everybody everywhere. Hey, they all play. Plug and play. Put them in wherever we want.
Well, remember, I mean, to be fair to Nick, I mean, things change. When you have 90 guys, nothing matters, right? You have a backup center, a backup left guard, a backup right guard, a backup right tackle, backup left tackle. But then you got to get down to 53, and it's 46 on game day. And all of a sudden, you can only have 8 offensive linemen. And if the crap hits the fan, you know, a center might have to play guard, a guard might have to play center, a tackle might have to play guard. That's why it's good to have somebody like Jack Driscoll. Isaac was phenomenal at it before he took over. He could play anywhere. Jack Driscoll can play everywhere but center. It's important to have those guys because you can't dress everybody on game day. That's why it's important to have that cross training. But it's easy in training camp to just say, oh, I got to back up everything. Especially this year. There's no cut, so you're going to have 90 guys right up until you have 53. I don't think that's good for the NFL, by the way. I think that's a bad rule. They eliminated all the cuts. They've been doing it incrementally. It used to be 90 to 75, and then 75 to 53. Then it was 90 to 85, and now it's just one big cut. And you know, I don't think that's a good thing from the strategy perspective of cross-training on the offensive line. You can say, well, Julian Good-Jones, you brought up, Ed. You can play him at center. He's probably not going to be there on the 53. He's certainly not going to be on the 46. Then what do you do?
Yeah, and you're not doing a favor to any of those guys that are getting cut, you know, after spending all summer with the same team. You're not doing them any favors to go find another team either.
Yeah.
But I don't think teams will wait. I don't think a team like the Eagles will wait until the last day to cut, you know, whatever it is, 40 guys off their team. I think they'll still probably do it a little bit more incrementally and keep guys at positions where they're going to need some depth going into the last preseason game. But I don't think they'll just, you know, do it all in one wave. I think the Eagles will release guys as the summer goes on.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you there, Ed. I think the Eagles will keep the 90 for as long as they can keep the 90, because if there's anything that the Eagles do, they try and win in the margins. They try and win on the small things, the little things, and they're very good at it. As a matter of fact, Howie Roseman et al. Have been very good at doing just that. Why would you give another team a chance to get in somebody's ear, especially if you like a player and you think he can be a practice squad guy for you? You want to keep him as long as possible so that other teams aren't talking to him and his agent. You want to, we'll keep you. We want you on the practice squad. We just ran out of spots.
Well, plus they don't want anybody playing any of the regulars playing in preseason games. I mean, they want, you know, they want the backups for preseason games. They've proven that.
There's still like 5 to 10 guys you can just take after the first week of summer and say, okay, he's not.
Well, I think it's one of those things. Like if somebody gets hurt and you waive them injured, you know, injury settlement, and you're down to like 88, I don't think they'll go back up to 90 and you know, late in camp just to get to 90. But I think they're going to keep all their healthy guys, until they cut to 53, because that third preseason game. You left Miami, Ed. I stayed there for that god-awful game. You remember that game? They didn't play anybody. And the Dolphins, remember, they canceled day 2 because of the virus or whatever was going through their training facility. Nice training facility, by the way.
Oh,
yeah. They played some guys, and they destroyed the Eagles, who played nobody. And it doesn't matter, but the Eagles don't want to play any of their key guys in the preseason. Any. Week 1, week 2, or week 3. That's why they have the joint practices. They want to get their starters work in practice and say, all right, I don't want to call them crash test dummies, but they're you know, they want those guys who aren't going to be part of the team taking the hits in the game.
Yeah, there are more controlled environments with the practices with other teams. You can control how things go. So it's a better situation for the starters.
And the one practice that they did get in against the Dolphins dominated them. And then as John pointed out with the game, Oh, yeah. The Dolphins kept a couple of their regulars in to get a little action in that last preseason game, and then they started to incorporate their subs. The Eagles had the subs in. The Dolphins ones beat the Eagles 2s and 3s. The Dolphins 2s beat the Eagles 3s and 4s. Then the Dolphins 4s beat the Eagles 4s. They just beat them all game long. Didn't matter who the Eagles had out there on the field. Dolphins moved the ball up and down against them. That kind of sucked me into believing that the Dolphins could actually make the Super Bowl.
Yep.
All right, Ed, so I'm going to give you a chance to hold hands with your buddy John McMullen and sing Kumbaya. Did the Eagles screw you and McMullen?
Always.
The one practice the Eagles will have open to the public is on Sunday. They usually do it on Sunday at 7 p.m. Johnny Mac likes 1 o'clock. He doesn't like 4 o'clock. He doesn't like 7 o'clock. He likes 1 o'clock action. And the Eagles' one practice open to the public is going to start at 7 p. Did they just tell you guys shut up and show up?
It's always at night, isn't it? Yeah, it's always at night. Yeah, the open practice at the link. Yeah.
No, they had daytime practice. Much more often.
I think 7's a little later than it normally is. I think it's even if it's been at maybe 6. Maybe they're just getting us ready for the regular season. I mean, what do the Eagles have? Like 4 1 o'clock games out of their 17 this year?
They don't have many.
They don't have many. And, fortunately, we don't really have deadlines, in the .com world. It's not like
not the old days.
Where you kind of had to write your running and nobody cared about it. And listen, I don't like being up that late anymore. But this
you get home from the link and have a nice little post midnight snack. Is that what you're telling us, Ed? Have a nice meal after an Eagles 7 o'clock preseason practice game. Is that the deal?
They will do all the media availability before the practice.
Right.
And now the problem with those open practices, the players have to stay a little bit. They usually have military day. They might do it at the Novacare complex where they give the jerseys to military people, but they sign autographs. So you get them a little bit on the field. I remember talking to Joe Douglas, your guy now, Jody, for a long time on the field after one of those practices. It was at night, but they've had some. They've had some. They used to have 2 open practices. Now they've done.
Now they're down to just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
It stinks though. Everything at night stinks, no question. But it's part of it. It stinks.
Yeah.
Jody, everything at 1 o'clock. No reporter who has been around for more than, what do you say, Ed? 2 years is going to say, "Oh no, give me a night game." No, 1 o'clock. That's what we want.
Yeah, because
let you get out on Saturday. If you were 20 something, John, you get out on Saturday night. You don't have to worry about being up if you got a 7 o'clock game the next day. Part of it has to do with our age. Yeah, we like the early because.
Well, I said that's been around for a while. That's been around. Yeah. 1 o'clock.
I mean, it's nice they give us pregame or pre-practice availability for those for those open practices because you're right. Then we don't have to stick around afterward.
Yeah.
To go in the locker room or go to the press conferences. So, that's the one good thing. But yeah, make sure you're practiced with your naps this year because there's a lot of late night action.
No, naps only. I always stick it up. I stay up throughout, man. Naps only make you more tired. I found that out. No naps.
Right. Eddie, last thing, and John and I talked about this yesterday and last week, and I know I annoy Eagle fans when I bring it up, but it's a legit concern. How much oversight will the Philadelphia Eagles have over Jalen Carter over the next month? Because there's a reason that they got Jalen Carter at number 9 because he had off-field issues, and there should be, and there were for some other teams concerns enough that they decided to pass on arguably the most talented player in the draft. Call-ins, Zooms, private eyes. How far are the Eagles going to make sure Jalen Carter doesn't get himself in trouble during this 5-week period?
Is Jalen Carter like on the FBI's 10 most wanted list? I mean,
he should be on the Eagles' 10 most wanted list.
He's a 22-year-old kid who's a little bit immature. Sounds like me. when I was 22. Now, I didn't make those.
John, I'm guessing your first job didn't get you paid the kind of money to.
No, it did not.
Oh, okay.
I worked many years before I got to Jalen Carter.
Whoever hired you at age 22 wasn't nearly as invested
Not
in
quite.
you as the Eagles are in Jalen Carter.
Not quite.
Yeah, I know Jalen Carter, he gets all the publicity about this, but I'm sure there are other players on this team that Dom DeSandro and his staff have to kind of keep tabs on to make sure they're doing the right things. I'm not sure who they are, but I know for a fact Dom is a pretty busy guy when they go on road trips, things of that nature. So, yeah, I'm sure that there are plenty of check-ins with several players, maybe all the players, except for, maybe there's a handful you can absolutely trust. But, yeah, I'm sure it's not just Jalen Carter. There are other players that are doing check-ins. I'm sure teammates are doing check-ins on their friends. Jalen Carter's got plenty of friends now in that Eagles locker room from his Georgia days. So, I'm sure there's a pretty strong network that is in place that's keeping tabs, not just on Jalen, but every player. You're talking about young players that are given a lot of money. And they're at different maturity levels. So, yeah, there are check-ins with more than just Jalen Carter. I can guarantee you that.
You know what I'm worried about? The only thing I'm worried about, and it's not involving Jalen Carter, it's involving everybody, to be honest, gambling. That's what I'm worried about, these damn apps, because this is a stupid policy from a stupid league. And the Calvin Ridley story. Calvin Ridley'd be an Eagle probably if he didn't take out his app.
And AJ Brown wouldn't be an Eagle with Calvin Ridley,
which is probably not a good thing. But nonetheless, it worked out for the Eagles in the end. But I don't know, man. These 6 things: don't play daily fantasy football. Don't take out the app when you're at a team hotel. Now, they educate the guys. Nick Sirianni talked about this a little bit, Ed, but I mean, I don't know. This is a big ball of nothing. Why can't the league use some common sense here? Look, it was the same thing with marijuana for years until they lightened up on that. If somebody has a problem, you identify it and you deal with it. If somebody takes out an app and makes a mistake, they shouldn't lose 6 games. They shouldn't lose half a season. You should warn them, maybe even fine them. And this is the players' union as well, and they should be.
I was going to say, this is collectively bargained here, John. This wasn't the NFL just magically made up these punishments.
Yeah, but the NFL
bargained it with the union.
But it's not closed. You can always open up these negotiations, and they could put an addendum, and both sides should recognize this is stupid, and this is hurting our league. Jameson Williams in Detroit, perfect example. That's a good player, a good young player, who's suspended for what, Jody? 6 games?
6 games, yeah.
6 games. That's dumb. That's dumb. Now, if you fine him and you warn him and you say, hey, dude, you can't do this, and he does it again, all right, no problem. I just think there's no common sense to this. And I think that's going to be a big story around the league, because there's going to be some big players gone, and hopefully not in Philadelphia.
Yeah, listen, I think they need to come out strong against this. I mean, this is going to be a problem, and you got to shut it down. You can't, give warnings or slap on the wrist. I think oppositely. I think that they have to come down as hard as they can, because this is an issue that's out of the barn now. You don't know how deep it runs into the college game. Maybe college guys are doing this too. 2 swipes of the phone is all it takes to make a bet. And you can't be betting on your league, I don't think, or especially on your own team. I just don't think that's a good look at all. And I think you have to come out strong against guys that do it. And then maybe you back off as it goes on. But you have to send a message early on this. And I think that's kind of the point of it is, we don't want this to get any more out of control than it already is or will become. So, yeah, I think you come down strong. And then just like they did with marijuana, once it becomes a little bit more accepted and now it's legal in so many states, then you kind of back off a little bit on the suspension. And maybe that's what's going to happen with gambling is you come out and you hit them hard, send the message early, and then maybe as, time goes on, you come back a little bit and put that addendum in.
Yeah, I'm dead in the middle of you two guys. John makes it sound like way too harsh and over the top. You're saying, no, as harsh as possible. That'll send a message. I'm in the middle. Do I think it's a little bit harsh, some of these suspensions? Yeah, I do. Do I think they need to stick to what they already have in place? Like you said, yeah, I do, Ed. And I'll tell you one guy who absolutely wants it to stay exactly as it is, Roger Goodell. Because anytime there's subjectivity to fines, Goodell gets freaking crushed. The football fans jump, he's against us. Roger Goodell's an idiot. How did they put – No, he loves mandatory punishments because then he just throws up his hand and goes, hey, we collectively bargained it. Don't look at me. This was something that was agreed to by absolutely everybody. So don't point your finger at me. I'm just reading you the rules as everyone signed off on and agreed to. So, yeah, until they get to the next collective bargaining agreement, they're not going to revisit this, John. It's not happening. It's in place. It's going to be what it's going to be.
I think, man, there's no room for common sense in society. Look, I think Ed is 100% correct. The kid on Indianapolis that's betting on the Colts. Yeah, I mean, come on, use your head. That's suspend that kid. Now, if you're betting $5 on an NBA game in a team hotel, why can't you say, "Hey, stupid, don't do that"? First, and then if it continues to be a problem, okay, pile on. But Calvin Ridley, to use him as an example, I mean, he's betting on other sports. He had no idea that's another thing. You can blame we have no access to the education, and some of these players say, we got a memo, we got this, we got that. We didn't even have a meeting. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. I think it's a disaster waiting to happen because I guarantee there's a hell of a lot more than 6 players or whatever it is now that are bet on these apps. And maybe not NFL games, but NBA games, baseball, whatever. It's so easy to do. I think you're going down a path. And then it starts, to Jody's point, but in a different way. Then it starts saying, one team is saying, I lost Jameson Williams. This guy did this. This guy did that. And it's a nightmare that could unfold.
You don't want. I know Roger Goodell doesn't want it, and I don't think the team should want it either. If you're right, if calmer heads could prevail and they could all sit down and outside a collective bargaining agreement rewrite it and re-agree to it and maybe back it off a little bit, that's good. If I'm the NFL, I'm going, no, we'll get back to this when the collective bargaining agreement runs out. We're not opening up a renegotiation here. If you're the players and you think they back off a little bit, yeah, you'd want that. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. They're going to stick by the rules that they have right now. I'm with you, John. I hope they continue the education and everybody. Florio had a post today about the agents not being educated. That the players get in directly and the agents would like to be involved because they could keep a rein over the players that they represent. Well, shame on the NFL for that if they haven't kept the agents enough in the loop. But it's not going anywhere. It's going to be a story that Ed Kratz is going to be able to write about, John McMullen's going to be able to write about, and we'll be talking about it here on Birds 365. EK, always a pleasure, bud. Appreciate you jumping in. We'll get you back up in a couple weeks.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great one.
Thanks,
Ed Kratz on vacay.
SI.com/NFL/Eagles. Got to get that in.
Always good to get Ed on, and certainly he's the kind of guy, because he's McMullen's buddy, that we can go, yeah, no, you're on vacation, but yeah, we need you for 30 minutes on Birds 365.
Yeah, we kept him late too. Oh, well.
Let me get the computer up and running for you guys. All right, McDonald McMullen coming back. We got hour number 2 of Birds 365 coming your way.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365 with the Mac and Mac guys. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. We could use your help. Those who have logged in, thank you very much. A little less than we usually do. And I think there's a reason for that, John. Let me make a promise to our streamers on there right now. And this is a note to you. This is a note to Hunter Brody, who will be joining us coming up in just a couple. Always love talking to Hunter, from the best show ever. We're not going to keep him near as long as we kept Ed Kratz for a very specific reason. I plan on wrapping up today's show at the latest, John, by 9:58. We're going to get out before the 2-hour window because I'm guessing we got a whole bunch of people right now streamed in that not only have the window to JAKIB Media YouTube channel, but also the entree to Ticketmaster. Because some 50 some odd minutes from now, Eagles single game tickets go on sale. And we know you're not watching on your phone or wherever else, standing in a line down at Lincoln Financial Field right now because they are not selling tickets. There is no such thing as a ticket to an Eagle game anymore. All it is a pass on your phone. And that's how you will purchase Eagles tickets today. If you're going to do so, I get it. It's for convenience. It's a paper, the green world in which we live, blah, blah, blah. I'm old school. I just love the feel of a ticket in my hand, but that is a ship that has sailed. So good luck to any of you Eagle fans who are listening to us. We're going to be jumping online to try and get tickets for an upcoming game. It starts at 10 o'clock. And if you've got a way to get around Ticketmaster or get to the head of the list, more power to you. We will wrap this puppy up before 10 o'clock so you can go immediately to Ticketmaster and get your Eagle tickets for this upcoming season.
Yeah, and you better get in the queue, man, because it's going to be quick, as it always is, for, very passionate fan base. So we were just talking about the night practice, too. That's going to be on sale as well. So make sure that's $10. It's for charity, Eagles Autism Foundation. So the only open practice, they do let some fans into the NovaCare complex, season ticket holders, sponsors, things like that. But it's not like it used to be when you can go out to Westchester or Lehigh and watch the old ball team. Not like the old days.
No, it's not even close. You're not. If we wrap this up by 58, you're not hopping on Ticketmaster. We know you're going to be at all the games. You're going to have a pass. They don't task you to get tickets for friends and families.
Yeah. You know how many times people ask me, they find out what I do, and they say, "Hell, could you get me tickets?" I'm like, I've never gotten a ticket in my life. I wouldn't know how to get a ticket.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But yeah, I get asked all the time. I'm sure you have.
You always have for years.
Yeah.
Still.
I have never gotten a ticket in my adult life since I got in this industry.
And it was at least 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I got an email. Maybe I was on an email. I don't even know how it came, but it was a invitation to join the waiting list for Philadelphia Eagles season tickets. And I said, you know what? What the hell? Yeah. I say you had to give your email address and certain information just to be put on the waiting list. And I'd say 3 times a year, every 4 months, certainly timed out by the calendar of the National Football League schedule, I would get an email that said, Mr. McDonald, you are now number 8,642 on the Eagles waiting list. We appreciate your support. Here's things you can do, things you do, the Eagle charities and everything else. So it was an informational way for them to get your email address and give you more information. But they dangled that carrot of, you're on the Eagles season ticket holding waiting list. And you see it go down by like 20 every 4 months. Oh, shoot, only 9,000 more to go. And at some point, if you don't participate, you don't get back to them, you don't give them to the charity or whatever else, you just disappear. Those emails stop coming to me. But I was on that list. I got Eagle emails. Had to be.
I've never been on a list where I've gotten email. I get, the releases about, they're going to start selling tickets because they want us to publicize it. But I've never been on that particular list. Green Bay is famous. I mean, people there, will their tickets to their family members when they pass away. So, I mean, yeah, and the Eagles are, some of these new stadiums like Dallas, they're so big. I don't think you have to worry about it. But yeah, here, I don't know how many single tickets they sell, but it ain't much.
Right. That was going to be my next question to you. If you knew off the top of your head, how many are actually going to become available today?
I don't think, I'll ask, but I don't know when they cut off the season tickets, but it's a big number. And they specifically hold a few back for individuals.
So they can entice people.
Yeah. It's not a lot though. No doubt about that.
All right, quickie quiz off the top of your head. What is capacity of Lincoln Financial Field for the Eagles?
It's like 67-ish, I think.
Very good, JM. 67.5.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, coming into this year, if they wanted to, they could have sold about 90,000 season tickets. People would have lined up to get them, and they would have 0 single game tickets available. But you're right. They hold some back because they want the interest. They want Jody McDonald and John McMullen talking about it on Birds 365. Hey, tickets are available today, so you got to be on Ticketmaster at 9 o'clock. Jump right in. I hope you've got the queue figured out just right. Yeah, they want that. That's smart business, and the Eagles are as smart as anybody else in the National Football League. But good luck, because there aren't that many up to grab, because they do sell mostly season tickets. You figure 5% max for regular tickets to be had today, John. So
yeah, I mean, if it it's 67-ish, as I said. I can't imagine. They probably cut it off at 60 would be my guess, and they keep 7, and that'd be about it. Would be. That's just a pure guess.
Right. And my guess would be even less than that, that the actual single game tickets are less than that, because there are other ways you can get your hands on ticket. Well, there's the whole secondary market for sure, but other teams get X amount of tickets that they return and then become available day of and the like. So there are ways you can get into the stadium. Easiest way is to be a season ticket
well,
holder.
that's something that literally surprised me. NFL players have to buy their own tickets.
Oh yeah,
I've known it for years, but when I've known it, when I found out about it, I was stunned. I figured they'd give them a couple, maybe give them 2, 3 per family, and then say, all right, if you need more. Yeah, I was stunned by that. I shouldn't be, but I was.
NFL owners wringing every possible dime out of their potential profit. You should not be surprised by that a little bit, Johnny Mac. That's what the NFL owners do. And but not everybody uses them. They have them, they put aside. But if the players say, no, pass, don't need me today, won't be writing a check for any of them or giving you my debit card for any tickets, they become available to JAKIB public. And usually they're pretty good seats, as a matter of fact. They do. At least they don't put the players and their families and their wives up in the upper tier. They're usually pretty good seats down on the first level. So that's just another way you can try and get into an Eagle game this year. All right, here's one of the questions I'm going to ask Hunter Brody when he comes back, and I'll ask John McMullen as well, since single game tickets are going on sale today. What's the biggest game at Lincoln Financial Field this year? 2 come to mind. Major competition in the NFC. One's a little bit more of a rival than the other, but one might have become a rival after the way they handled their loss in the NFC Championship game last year. Sour grapes about they would have won if their quarterback had stayed healthy. Don't say would, say could. We'll run that by Hunter Brody, and get Johnny Mac on the record on that one next here on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
E-A-G-L-E-S. Eagles.
A summer vacation Tuesday for 365 edition with Mac and Mac. We're lucky enough to have Hunter Brody from the best show ever on both the Fanatic and NBC Sports Philly join us. Hunter, I don't know if you heard the tease that I used right before we went to break. We're going to get out of here in about a half an hour and end early. So if there's anyone out there that needs to get on Ticketmaster to get their hands on Eagles tickets, we want to allow them to do so. Let's say you got a flash email while you're on the air here with us. You see a little thing blink in the computer for Hunter Brody from the Philadelphia Eagles. And they offered you 4 tickets, face value, any game this year to be played at Lincoln Financial Field. And you get to choose which one you want. For face value, either to use or turn around and make a profit maybe, because it's going to be a hot ticket come game time when they match up with that team this year. Who are you taking this year? What is the hottest ticket for the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
It's a great question. By the way, can you guys hear me fine or no?
Yeah,
we got you.
Just making sure before we started to kick things off. See, the thing is, I want to say Jonathan Gannon so bad because I think it'll be electric, but it's so deep into the season. I don't know where we're going to be at. I guess I'll go with the safe pick here and pick the Dallas Cowboys. And if I decide I want
always the safe pick.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's the easiest bet. It's the best way to go about it. But if Gannon was slotted in maybe week 8, week 9, where, it's a little bit different than the back end of the schedule, it's definitely a run for the money for sure.
Now, what about San Francisco?
There you go. That's the safe pick.
That's a good one, too.
Purdy-led 49ers are coming in December, Hunter. You're going to take the Cowboy game over the 49er rematch from the NFC Championship game?
Listen, you could sell me that the 49ers is the right pick for sure, but there's just something about the Cowboys. Come on.
Yeah, that's recency bias with the 49ers. I mean, the Cowboys are the Cowboys.
It's a recent pick you have to make. It's the
2000. I just don't think the angst, granted, it's high now, but I don't think it'll continue for that long. It's kind of late in the season. When is San Francisco in here?
December, yeah.
Yeah, December. So I think Eagles fans, it'll slow. The hate for Dallas will continue because Dallas is going to be a good team. They're going to be in it. It's going to be Eagles, Dallas for the division. It'll be a big game. I think Hunter's right. I think it always defaults to the Dallas.
You heard him, Jody. Can we clip that? Can we clip that little party set? I don't hear that very often.
I caught some of your trial this week. You got screwed, buddy. Hanging judge was out for you. That was just flat out wrong. But
I tried saying the same thing. They don't listen to me over there.
Much like Tyrone, I'm going to have to tell you that you're wrong. San Francisco is the game that you want to be at this year. If you could only go to one Eagle game, you want to go to the 49er game, not the Cowboy game.
I'm surprised that Arizona, they might be the worst team in football. Who cares about that game? If your anger towards Jonathan Gannon is that deep, and by the way, week 17 when Arizona might have 3 wins, I don't think.
Yeah, but see, here's the reason it's good. The Eagles can play not only their second team but their third team, John, and still win by 4 touchdowns.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that might be a game what they take for granted. It might be closer than expected because Arizona's so bad.
You think Gannon's rocking down Broad Street in the G-Wagon that week?
Yeah, we're gonna gut him. He's not gonna say we're gonna gut him. But interesting, since you bring up JG, we haven't talked JG in a while, so I'll go. Vic Fangio throwing fuel on the fire, refusing to rule out. He got asked, if the Cardinals didn't tamper, could you be the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia? Now, this drives me insane, Hunter, because, the timing doesn't match up. It doesn't make any damn sense. He already accepted the Miami job before, after the NFC Championship game, so before the whole tampering issue. By saying that, he's saying, oh, I would have been Josh McDaniels. I would have been unprofessional. I would have backed out of my Miami deal. Why is this goofball saying this down in South Florida?
It's a great question. I don't know. I think if I was in his shoes, I'd be going the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
And just, I wouldn't even mention this whatsoever. And I would let it kind of die out, fizzle out. And then we just work on whatever we need to work on down where he's at. So I don't know. I don't know what the pros and cons are. Sometimes when I look at this and I see somebody start spewing nonsense or spewing things that make me raise my eyebrows, I lay out the pros and the cons and where does this go? Where, if you weigh this out, what are the pros from this? I really can't even find any whatsoever. So I have no idea what he's doing. Maybe it's just as simple as when you have a name like Vic Fangio and when you're highly regarded as much as he is, you just don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, does it matter? I'm Vic Fangio. I just tell you how it is, and it is what it is. While someone like Nick Sirianni or someone else who's new and fresh in the league have to think about what they say, even though Sirianni doesn't do that anyway. So what the hell am I talking about? I'm just looking for answers.
And I think the answer is he hadn't signed off with Miami yet. They might have had a verbal agreement, but until you go to paper, it's not a done deal. And that's why he could sign a contract to work with the Eagles for 2 weeks.
No, that part is true, but I'm saying you are signaling. That's why I said that you are signaling, oh, I'm an asshole. I'm going to go back on my verbal agreement and say, oh, screw you, Maya. That's what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, you're admitting that where we're at now wasn't even that important to me. If I had a better opportunity, maybe I would have scurried out of here and went to a different town.
Which I think is a terrible look. And that's one of the reasons when I brought it up first with Jody, I said, look, I give Vic Fangio enough credit to say he's not going to beat Josh McDaniels. He wasn't going to leave Miami at the altar. Evidently, I was wrong. They basically said, oh, I don't care. My word means nothing.
Yeah, but wait. There's one big difference here in comparing those two things. They announced that McDaniels was the coach of the Colts. They had officially announced that he was the coach of the Colts. There had never been an announcement that Fangio was going to be the defense coordinator of the Dolphins. So there's similarities there, but they are not the exact same thing. There's one thing for the parties to know: we're in agreement. We're going to get this done. We haven't signed off on it yet. Fangio says, oh, by the way, I want to go coach the Eagles for 2 weeks and help them out with the Super Bowl. And Miami had to say, okay, if you really want to do that, as long as you're coming back to it. That had never been announced. That had been speculated, Schefter reporting, blah, blah, blah. The Dolphins didn't come up and say, Vic Fangio is our new defense coordinator. Oh, the Colts came out and said, guess who our new coach is? Josh McDaniels. They announced it to the world. So if Fangio had done what he did, it would not be the same as what McDaniels did.
It's still a terrible look, though.
It is. So it's funny. So
terrible look. Now, maybe Hunter's right, and he's got such a reputation where it doesn't matter to him, and but it's a bad look. You don't do that. You don't agree to terms with the team and say, "Oh, you know what? Forget that. Jonathan Gannon got another job. I'm going to stick with Philly." My whole premise was he wouldn't do that. Evidently he would. And that's great. But that's not a good look for a professional coach, especially one. And it might signify why he was a failure as a head coach, because it's a bigger job and you got to think about stuff like that. It might signify why he was a failure as a head coach, but just throwing it out there. Hunter?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's interesting that the difference for Jody is if, let's say, two parties have the same exact conversation, but one ends up being public and the other is still behind closed doors. Absolutely. But Vic Fangio speaking the same, they're having the same dialogue and they agree to the same terms, but one is public knowledge and one isn't. That's the difference in the two stories. I don't know. Is it? Should it be viewed differently or should it be viewed the same?
No, it's two different things. One, you've told your fan base. Because that's why you have public announcement, is to get the fan base excited, keep them in the loop, whatever. Those are not two similar agreements. If you get the blessing for the party you're cutting deal with, and we're going to announce this, yeah, go ahead. Well, then it's a done deal. Once it's been announced publicly, it's a done deal. If it's we're going to hold off on this, well, then it's not a done deal yet. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. Maybe I'm too much of a media guy that, when the media gets involved,
and by
that's
the way,
like the rubber stamp.
I'll just add one last thing to it. Sean Desai, who's his guy, by the way, and they're very close, he kind of screws him too, because now everybody knows, Oh, Sean decides the consolation prize.
Yeah, that's you know what, that might be the story from our side here, from our angle in this realm. There's so much going on sometimes. Sixers, James Harden, this, that. You lose a little bit of what Vic Fangio says down in Miami. You know what I mean? But now that's the angle. I might snag that and put it in the back pocket.
All right, since we went there, let me get a Hunter Brody take on Sean Desai. Gets the job don't hear from him forever. John and I used to bring it up like once a week. And at some point, we'll hear from the new Eagle coordinators. They never made them available. And then finally they did. And I tip my hat to Desai because I don't know if he's going to be as good as Jonathan Gannon, better, very similar, exactly the same. But I'll tell you this. He's smarter in his choosing of how to handle the media than Jonathan Gannon ever was. I know John liked him and he liked John, but Gannon could open mouth and insert foot with the best of them. Desai came out and he was they're going to have to feel us and we represent Philadelphia. He checked every single box that you need to check to suck up to the fan base here in Philadelphia when he had his first chance to talk to the people. He going to be that much more well-liked than Jonathan Gannon? Or if the Eagles come out and don't blitz the first 3 weeks of the season, will he be on the hatred list just like the former defensive coordinator was?
It's hard to be worse than Jonathan Gannon, so if that's where the bar is at the bottom, I think he'll be better than that. He was impressive, though. He was definitely impressive with the way that he spoke and the way that he looked at the media, answered the questions. Every time I feel comfortable about saying that, though, I just think, well, Nick Sirianni completely sucked and butchered it completely, and he became a fantastic head coach. So how much value can I really put into this? But look, I will say that he sounded like he's got a good head on his shoulders and a good approach here. And from what we're hearing, yes, it is a very similar style. And stylistically, a lot of the teams in this league are running something similar. But it does sound like they're going to tweak some of the flaws in Jonathan Gannon's side of the scheme, where it's going to be similar and it's going to have the same vibe, but maybe have a bit more aggression to it. So, saying all the right things, I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I knew what it was going to be like. Saying the right things, though, it's a good start.
I didn't know. We'll continue down the Sean Desai Avenue. Didn't mean to go here, but what the heck?
Yeah, whatever.
Matt Patricia is also here because I bring up, I put up my own antenna with the consolation prize. And then you have the safety net on top of the consolation prize. All of a sudden you create a new role for a longtime defensive coordinator, senior defensive assistant. One of the weirdest things about this, Hunter, is his past relationship with Darius Slay. Now, Darius Slay, they kept away all spring. They kept him away from us. Typically, Slay's the first one up there. Wednesday during game week, Slay's the first guy to talk to us. When they did the podium stuff during COVID, all that kind of crap. They kept him away from us. All of a sudden, he's back out in Detroit doing Calvin Johnson's celebrity golf tournament. Somebody out there gets a hold of him, asks him about Matt Patricia because they know, even better than the people here, those two hated each other. And Slay handled it like the professional he is. He said, it's another day at the office. We both got the same goal, just going out there to compete, win a championship. So that's the main focus. Bang, over, done. Why the Eagles hiding Darius Slay? Why is Matt Patricia? Why, Hunter? Explain it to me.
I don't know. I think it was strange to begin with. Look, if Matt Patricia was some wizard and it's like this guy's got all the answers and he's fantastic and he knows it all, then I would understand maybe if there was some beef and there was some, heads banging or whatever. It's like, okay, but he's got such a sharp mind and there's so much we can pull from him. And trust me, he's got the X's and O's all down. But what the hell has Matt Patricia ever done to say, oh, this is a no-brainer lock. Let's create a role and put him on the website, take it down before anybody sees it and starts all this drama. So I don't know. Look, I know that Howie works in mysterious ways. I'm a big Howie guy. I would think, though, that they had a conversation prior to hiring him and bringing him in. Now, maybe that's me being naive and I'm a fool here and getting fooled by Howie Roseman, but I don't know. Like, I would think that there would be some dialogue knowing Darius Slay is one of your top dogs, but at the same time, Was Darius Slay 100% coming back last season? Where were they at? At some point, was he going to be traded? And at that point, they didn't care about what Darius Slay thought about it. It's an interesting relationship. But for me, it's like, once again, it goes back to the pros and cons. With this Matt Patricia, do the pros outweigh the cons for him coming in here? Can you find someone else? Do you need him in here, really? I don't know. I don't think it's the greatest move in the world, but at the same time, is Matt Patricia going to be the thing that blows this all up? And if that's the case, then you're not thick enough to begin with at the end of the day, right?
All right, Hunter, I got a crystal ball one for you. We're jettisoning ahead. Week 1.
Yep.
In New England, coin toss, Eagles win and defer, shockingly. Jake Elliott kicks it out of the back of the end zone, and here come the Patriots, 1st and 10 from the 25. What 2 Eagle linebackers will be on the field?
Wow. 2 linebackers. Well, Nakobe Dean is going to be number 1.
The first one's easy, yes.
Yeah. And then, I'd be lying if I said I had a pulse on this thing. I really don't know what direction they're going to go in at this time. And I can say that for safety as well, because I know that they were excited about Sidney Brown, but is it going to be Blankenship? And, is it going to be Edmonds, who they brought in from Pittsburgh, played under Mike Tomlin? I don't know. I mean, it's at the point where I haven't even really thought about it because I'm so excited about Nakobe Dean, and we'll see who gets slotted in there after that. Yeah. I'm just kind of in that mode right now. But, yeah, I really don't know what direction they're going to go in. I guess that's what fascinates me is I don't know much about Sean Desai. I know last year we were aggravated. I thought Kaiser White held his own for a while, and Nakobe was soaking in the sponge on the side between him and TJ Edwards. He seems to be hungry and foaming out the mouth to get some playing time, and that's really where my mind has been at the linebacker position, so I'm excited to watch him grow. I don't know. I don't know where they go, but I'm excited to see it. What are your thoughts on it? I'm sorry if that's a horrendous answer.
No, it's a good answer. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm
a lot of pressure when I come on with you too. You know what I mean?
I'm like you, Hunter. I'm a Howie guy. I think Jody's more of a Howie guy than a Howie hater as well. Certainly.
Yeah.
But I look at that second linebacker spot, and it's Nick Morrow versus Christian Ellis.
It seems like Ellis is getting the most buzz out of what happened recently.
Well, we saw him for 100 minutes in the spring with nothing, and he
Yeah.
played well. That's all you can gauge on, but he did play well. But we're still talking about Nicholas Morrow versus Christian Ellis. I mean, to me, that's a problem.
Yeah.
On the scale of Eric Wilson to Kaiser White, to me, that's far closer to Eric Wilson than Kaiser White. And Kaiser White's just competence. That's what we're talking about. So the scale from disaster to competence, I think they're closer to disaster. And I think people are just saying, not that big of a deal. It's a devalued position, but come on. I mean, TJ Edwards and Kaiser White played 2,100 defensive snaps last year. They got to replace every single one of them. I'm with you guys with Nakobe. Tremendous upside, tremendous ceiling, but it's all upside. It's all projection. 2,100 snaps. Everybody's, for the most part, going, And we've seen terrible linebacker play for years.
Nate Gary?
It can go in it can go in a negative direction. Why is everybody
Well, maybe it's Howie guys. We just have trust with him having his fingertips all over if it gets to the point.
Howie brought in Eric Wilson.
Yeah, I know.
Said.
And Nate Gary.
Just give the Howie will get it figured out thing, because when it comes to linebackers, Howie's made some mistakes.
You're right. Maybe they get to, I don't know what they do. And look, what if Ellis can play, then we're just wasting our breath right now. No one thought TJ Edwards could play. He was an undrafted guy from Wisconsin.
John and I both like TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
You're talking to the wrong guys here.
Listen.
I said last year they should get TJ signed to an extension. John was singing his praises from the first practice last season that this guy's going to be a very good linebacker for the Eagles. Well, no, we were both on the Edwards bandwagon early.
Okay, timeout. Listen, there was intrigue, Wisconsin, like there was something there. But did you think he'd run out as many snaps as John just mentioned when you first picked him up undrafted?
No, not back then.
Right.
He was ninth on the depth chart when he got here.
Maybe we get a little something from Ellis. I don't know. Listen, all I'm saying, maybe they get some versatility, putting the safety in the box, doing this, doing that. I don't know. Look, Sean Desai has to push some buttons here if that ends up being the case. Or we watched Nate Gary get destroyed by tight ends nonstop. And you remember looking at the tight ends, it was like 10 catches, 190 yards, 8 catches, 170 yards. It was nonstop. Maybe we don't have an answer and then we're watching crap, but I don't think Howie's going to let that happen this year. But yeah, it could. And then we're in trouble.
All right, another question that I may stump you with, and I don't mean to do this, Hunter, because I think you're a smart guy, so I ask you hard questions.
Thank you.
Devontae Smith, already a top 10 wide receiver in the league?
Whew. He has some traits. His toe tapping ability by the sidelines, he does it just like the best do. Top 10? Yeah, I think you can make the argument for sure. I mean, look, there's definitely another tier, but I think he can blossom and get into that tier by the end of it. So, yeah, I think he absolutely does. And for all the fear of he's too skinny, I've seen him take some shots and get up and be just fine. And I think over the seasons, he's going to bulk up and he's going to continue to get his body where it needs to be. So, yeah, for sure. I think you got to, between him and A.J. Brown, the question really becomes what's number 3? And I know Nick Sirianni's trying to pump the tires on Quez Watkins or, give him a little boost of energy. But, yes, to answer your question, yes, I think he is in that top 10.
All right, Hunter, I'm going to upset Eagles fans because why not? I'm going to criticize Jalen Hurts, and here's my criticism.
Can't slide in softball games?
He can't slide in softball games. Also, he's made things really, really difficult for Jody and I because we have to do this show during the NFL lull where, they don't do anything between June 8th and training camp, which is July 25th. Last year, all we talked about was Jalen Hurts. Is Jalen Hurts going to do this? Is Jalen Hurts? We don't even talk about him. We don't even mention him. We don't even bring him up because have you ever seen anything like it from somebody who was advanced from a solid prospect to a superstar in a calendar year that everybody's like, oh, this guy, yeah. He's locked in. He's basically, Joker, winning NBA. He's locked in. Don't worry about him. We'll talk about everything else. Have you ever seen that leap in a calendar year?
It's hard to pick one out, because I'm going back to, previously Carson Wentz his first year went 7-9 with Doug Peterson, but you still saw the traits of a big, tall, strong quarterback and someone who can air the ball out. We didn't have the same questions that we did on Jalen Hurts. I didn't know if he had the arm strength. I didn't know if he could read the field properly. Todd Bowles literally dared him to use the left side of the field in a playoff game, and it was extremely one-sided, knowing that he had plenty of room to grow, but who would have thought that he'd be in the MVP conversation right behind Patrick Mahomes the following season after Todd Bowles is laughing, asking him to use the left side of the field. So, no, I really can't remember a shift this big. And you're right. I think at this point we just kind of automatically write him in because of the way he approaches the game, the way he's obsessed with his craft. It's just like nonstop football 24/7 for the guy. And I can't remember a time that someone made this level of jump with the fan base. Like, I haven't come across anyone with questions at all. Not one.
It's unbelievable. He is just.
It's a credit to him, though, right? I mean,
but
every time we bring this up, it's funny because sometimes, like I said, we get lost in like Sixers, Phillies, but once in a blue moon, like we brought on Dave Zangaro just to give us a little refresh, or Tim McManus just to give us a little buzz of the Eagles, and then we get sidetracked in the Eagles stuff. And someone brought up pretty recently, a couple of days ago, because we were giving Jalen Hurts a ton of praise, and we were talking about what he's doing off the field. He's on magazine covers. Like, this guy's bigger than just football. He's got the possibility of being more of like a face of football to a degree. And someone brought up the fumble, and it was like, how come you never bring up the big turnover in the Super Bowl and no one's ever knocking him for giving the other team 7 points? And I thought, well, he did respond right after that with a pretty impressive drive. And all along, you look at a game with the lights are shining bright. He was magnificent. But I'm like, he did have the big turnover, and no one ever seems to bring that up at all. Now, I don't either, to be fair. He did so much well. He did 15 things great, one thing wrong, and that one thing wrong did cost you. But, we just forget.
Well, he is a human being. I'm not trying to say he doesn't have any flaws. Yeah, he is a human being. So all NFL players are going to make mistakes. He happened to make a big mistake. Jody and I were talking about ball security. Jody brought up the turnover. And I said, yeah, but what I'm talking about is compared to everybody else. He takes care of the football.
Yes.
Is there going to be an outlier? Yeah. And unfortunately, that outlier happened on a pretty big stinking stage, but he was the best player on the stinking field that day.
Yes, he was. And that was my response. It's like, come on, we're going to not – the kid in the first Super Bowl ever. First off, look at the year he had. Really? We're going to start – but he's like, the biggest game if it was McNabb. And I'm like, all right, we're not doing this. We're not doing – let's get back to the
Two things. Two things. Number one, after the fumble, he puts up the next 10 points. Yes. And the Eagles are up by 10 points at half. So that certainly it doesn't erase it, but it lessens it. When you give up the big play and you immediately respond and you back up by 10 points going into half, it's not nearly as painful. The other thing that bothers me is Nick Bolton made a pretty good play scooping that ball up and getting it into the end zone. That's why I ask you about linebackers, Hunter, because the Eagles don't see the sweat linebackers. They come, they go, 1-year contracts, guys here wide. We can do this again. Yeah, I'd take Nick Bolton.
Here's another thing to the –
give me Nick Bolton. I'd take him if I were Howie Roseman.
Listen, another thing with the whole linebacker debacle, if it happens to be one, we don't know yet. Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Fletcher. Listen, if you're just eating and you're going to town, now I don't think we're going to be sniffing 70 sacks, but if you're eating in those trenches and getting to the quarterback, the deficiencies in that linebacker position, maybe it's not as ugly because you're doing damage. How about that? How about that for a little optimism?
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys aren't buying it at all. Look at you.
Nicholas Morrow's still Nicholas Morrow. Sorry about that.
This is the problem.
No matter how good the guys in front of him are.
You two speak Birds 365 nonstop, so that doesn't tickle your fancy. You're like, I heard this before.
At Prodes81, make sure you follow Hunter on Twitter. Does a tremendous job. Co-host of the best show ever on 97.5 The Fanatic. It is the best show ever. And I fit comfortably nestled in number 2. I'll take number 2A, whatever. I'll leave it here because you're mentioning some of the things, Morrow. When Nick Sirianni, I want to get Hunter Brody's thoughts when Nick Sirianni jumps on his sword for Quez Watkins or tells you Kerry Vincent Jr. is going to be a player, or tells you, brings up Trey Sermon unprompted. When he brings up lower level guys on the roster, what's your first thought? He's just bullshitting you, or is he really believing he's just protecting his guys? Why do you think Nick does that?
It's a case-by-case study. Or a case-by-case situation, I guess I should say. Sometimes I think maybe it's possible that they're pumping tires for trade value. Sometimes I think it's Nick Sirianni just being Nick Sirianni, and he's always going to go down with his guys, and he's always going to praise them. Even if someone has an awful day, he'll find a way to spin it where it's like, hey, we know we need to get better in this area, but there was a third down that he was special on, or there was a big block down the field as a wide receiver that A.J. Brown doesn't score. If who knows, Quez Watkins wasn't blocking on the other side. He'll just kind of stretch it and try and sell that positivity because that's part of the relationship and the bond that he always stresses with how he wants to communicate with his team. But I think it is case by case, depending on who it is and where they are in the depth chart and where they think they could do. Maybe it's for some trade value and some spark with some buzz just because that's what you do. And other times it's because it's the Nick Sirianni way, and you always go down with your guys.
Here's where I hope it is, and I if you ask me, that's what I would say. I don't know. Nick Sirianni's the only one who can answer the question. That some guys need a pat in the back, and some guys need a kick in the ass. And when they need a pat on the back, he's ready, willing, and able to do it in front of all the media members and get the word out to Eagle Nation. When they need a kick in the ass, he waits till behind closed doors. He's not going to do that. He's not going to address anybody. Some coaches will. Mike Malone, I took calls on my national show Oh, the Nuggets are going down. Did you hear Mike Malone second guess his players after they got beat by Miami in that one game? Oh, yeah, that really tore Denver down. All they did was rip off 3 games in a row. So you can strategically give your players a hard time through the media. That's not Sirianni. He's going to keep that all that behind closed doors. He'll sing praises out loud so everybody can hear them. But when he gets critical, I think he does it team-only stuff. Hunter, we appreciate your jumping in and being part of our team today. Give your crew over there at the best show ever our regards, and we'll get you back up again before camp gets underway.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, bud.
Hunter Brody from the best show ever here with us on Birds 365. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to put on a bow on the show, and we're going to get out early, fans. Just in case you need to get over to Ticketmaster to have those individual game tickets for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll come back, put a bow on the show next.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We're going to wrap this bad boy up pretty quickly on a Tuesday on summer vacation during the Eagles offseason here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, you're welcome. May not be able to say that tomorrow. I didn't bring up the Eagles and their Kelly Green jerseys once today. No, it's not your favorite topic to talk about. For the most part, I agree with you. The Kelly Green is just kind of different for me. Maybe it's an Irish thing or whatever. Yes, I specifically like the Eagles in Kelly Green. I don't get caught up in uniforms, the City Series uniforms of baseball and best. No, what was the final score? How'd they play? How'd the game turn? I don't really care much about the uniforms, but I do truly appreciate the Kelly Green, and it leaked out yesterday. Not officially released by the Eagles, which they want to be the ones to dictate all those terms on how it's going to get out. Where with some company leaked out a photo of it, and it looks more like the 90s, 80s into 90s Kelly Green than the one they wore the one time with Michael Vick. So it'll be interesting. We got through the show without having to go there. I may have to go there tomorrow, but if we do, Johnny Mac will be rolling his eyes at me when I do it tomorrow. So
I'll probably remember when they finally wear them. I'll probably remember what they were wearing for a day instead of 10 minutes. So maybe it does have an impact.
I do love the Kelly Green. All right, tomorrow we got Mike Gill, and we're going to have a gentleman who Matt Manicherian turned us on to from SIS, who's going to join us, Alex Vigderman from Sports Information Solutions. Matt's one of our draft guys. The combination of both stats and scouts and how they mesh the two. Some interesting
Which
stuff.
is a big thing. Bob, did you see Bob Costas? Bob had a great interview. You're a big baseball guy. So we start, Bob's not a big analytics guy as far as the energy. I think that's what people miss. Like Bob wasn't criticizing, we got to get out of here, but Bob wasn't criticizing teams. I say the same thing. It's the Eagles' job to win games. Do it any way possible. It's the league's job to make the game entertaining for fans as a whole. Different jobs. Sometimes you got to shut down some ugliness of analytics. I think that's where some people don't understand the criticism.
There is a mesh point. The question is, how do you find it? And they love the fact that some people get so moved to get to the opposite ends of the debate. Foolishness. Try and get to the middle. And we'll do that tomorrow with Alex Vigderman from Sports Information Solution. All right, brother. I'll be back here tomorrow. John's going to get online and try and get some Eagle tickets next. Good luck to any of those of you who are jumping over to Ticketmaster. We'll be back and talking Eagles football both on and off the field tomorrow, right here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.